So, with Leinster this week securing their third straight Pro 14 title, in which time they also managed to win, a little thing called the European Cup, got us thinking, what are the most dominant teams in rugby history? You've got a couple more contenders at the minute. You've got Saracens winning just a bunch of premierships lately. We've got the Crusaders currently in Super Rugby and Super Rugby Aotearoa this year. And then you've also got teams on the international side. So you've got the All Blacks in 2011 to 15 when they were dominant and won 2 World Cups back to back. You've got teams at lower levels. Tell us, what do you think is the most dominant team in rugby history across all leagues and standards? And we'll read them out next week. So Leinster is the obvious place to start as they saw off Ulster to secure their third straight Pro 14 title. Also started really well with a great try through James Hume, and then from there on out it was all Leinster. Josh van der Fleer was fantastic, just kind of shutting down everything. He was kind of pretty much everywhere, but then Leinster have this ridiculous squad. They had 53 players play for them across the season, in which they won every single game. The first team to ever do that in the Pro 14, to go an entire season unbeaten and then win the playoffs. So it's been honestly quite a privilege to watch Leinster. They haven't lost a single match. They haven't even drawn a match since they lost to Saracens in the European Cup final last May the 11th. However, next week they play Saracens in the quarterfinals of the European Cup, meaning that one of those two teams has to lose. Toulouse have Ulster though. Toulouse is a separate fixture. But that's going to be a game worth watching. That's on Saturday. That's going to be well worth tuning in for. 3 p.m. Sticking with Saracens, they saw off Exeter this weekend in one of the 86 Premiership matches played in the last 7 days. We also saw Bath beat Sale in quite an impressive performance, securing the bonus point later on through Jamie Joseph. Not Jamie Joseph, he's the Japan coach, Jonathan Joseph. We saw rugby, honestly. Japan aren't playing any test matches for the rest of the year, by the way, let's cram that one in. We saw a proper thriller between Wasps and Bristol, in which there were 14 tries, both teams secured bonus points. It was kind of silly to watch. And the top 4 just continues to teeter. There's only 2 rounds left of the Premiership, and yet could go in any direction. So away on the other side of the world, however, in Australia, we have finally the final lineup for Super Rugby AU. So the Reds saw the Rebels, and they will play the Brumbies in the final this weekend. It's been quite a long campaign, it's been quite an entertaining campaign, and it's been a campaign in which a lot of young players have really established themselves and made themselves into really promising and really just genuinely good senior rugby players. Australia, of course, made the final of the Junior World Championship last year, and a lot of those players are blooded through already, and in fact a lot of them this week got their first Wallabies call-up. There were 16 uncapped players across that squad, and a further bunch who are only in their first handful of caps. And it makes it really intriguing that the Rugby Championship is, of course, now going to be played over a few matches in Australia. We also finally have women's rugby back in New Zealand, and this week 16-year-old Sylvia Brunt put in perhaps the most impressive finish anyone will see this year. It's some way to announce yourself. Back in Europe, we had the second round of the top 14. Highlight, of course, as we have a given plays, being Cheslin Kolbe scoring a brilliant try. Toulouse remain the highlight, however. They also scored a great try which featured 11 offloads in 32 seconds. So next week we have the Super Rugby Australia final, we have the European knockout stages, and we also have the Sevens Awards. And so, in order to talk about this, I had the very exciting opportunity to catch up with 2 World Cup winners at the same time in Bryan Habana and Danielle Waterman. Bryan Habana and Nolli Waterman, how are we doing? How are we?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
We're well. I'm wanting to. Do we do the stick against Nolli to get into Hogwarts? So I'm not quite sure.
I've gone back a few decades.
So Bryan, your career very much Sevens bookended it, I think. It was kind of the beginning and end, whereas Nolli, it was very much right the way throughout. You were kind of flitting back and forth. How do you think that Sevens kind of impacted you both as rugby players?
I think Bryan should be playing the record that he has. in sevens.
You see, why are we immediately low blow? Let me just. Not all of us got to go to the Olympics. Okay, it's fine. Some of us do hold certain records in the game of sevens for the longest time from making your debut to actually scoring your first try. So I'm not too sure. It's a Guinness World Record, but it is definitely a sevens record. My first ever tournament was in 2004 as a 20-year-old. Got to travel out of South Africa for the first time. Went to Los Angeles, was on the bench against Uruguay. Came on. My immediate role was to kick the ball from the halfway line to restart the game. Kick directly out from that ensuing penalty, high tackle, yellow card. That was my 10 minutes of sevens. Yeah. What? Why the laughs? Like,
Sorry.
But
Probably
then
it's absolutely shocking, terrible.
Yeah. No, it's horrible. No, horrible. Not horrible. Then tried 12 years later. Didn't make Olympics. Yeah,
it'd be tragic if I'd done that, but I think you went on to have a good enough career just to justify laughing at it. Yeah,
you had to have that career to make up for it.
That's it. That was the motivation that pushed you on.
It's a little bit bonkers because my last official sevens duty was in Rio, to be able to go to an Olympic Games when I'd actually about 19 months before had an injury that I was told that I probably wouldn't play again. So it was a pretty decent carrot to get me through the physio. And my mum always used to say there's no such word as can't. So yeah, when they said you can't play again, I was like, you watch me.
You, of course, just this week finally called time completely on your career. How long's that been coming? How long have you had it in mind?
So I retired internationally in 2018, played another season with Wasps, and I must admit, I love the girls, I love the club. Giselle as director of rugby was fantastic women, but I didn't really enjoy playing because for me, I think, when you've played at the top and pushed to be the best, and when I reduced the training, I wasn't, I didn't have that motivator or that carrot of England. I didn't enjoy being the best, and I didn't enjoy being old and it taking a little bit of time to recover from most of the games. And now, at 35, soon to be 36, I think I'm happy with my career.
Obviously, it's been a weird season, kind of truncated, but I think in amongst them, you had a number of really kind of amazing stories. What stood out to the pair of you?
For me, one of the most incredible moments was seeing the women run out in Cape Town, and also in particular the South African women's team being there as the invitational side, and getting to play and seeing them score their first tries in a home tournament. It was the first time that I'd ever even been to South Africa, and how much they love their rugby over there, obviously. So to see the women's there was just epic, and it shows how hard HSBC have worked to try and blend the tournaments. The standard of the rugby has been brilliant.
It was really cool to go to Dubai and a little girl not ask me for a photo but Daniil, because they are now real stars for young girls. They are real heroes that they can look up to. And I think, in a male dominant environment, to be able to see young girls and boys looking up and seeing the fantastic skill that these women, across the globe are portraying, and becoming heroes, in their own living rooms.
And Bryan, the last time we spoke, we talked the fantastic work you've been doing with your foundation across South Africa. Just wondering how that's been going. Very much agreed. Silent round of applause. Socially distanced round of applause.
Being able to be given the platform as a professional athlete, to be a voice, to be someone that can inspire, can give back hope, and can make a difference in one little boy or girl's life is exceptional. And both myself and Nolli really love getting that interaction. And I think the pandemic and what it has caused has been surreal on so many different levels. In an emerging market economy like South Africa, where the disparity between the rich and the poor is astronomical. To have played a small part in giving back and trying to alleviate some of the food insecurity faced by so many, it's been a massive privilege and honor. The job is not done yet, and we've seen the likes of Sia Khaleesi and his wife Rachel doing some phenomenal things, Ches and Colby, and I think Be the Difference Foundation. So sportsmen and women around the world Margaret Rashford in the UK that has done something absolutely phenomenal. So we get this amazing platform to try and make a difference, and use sport as a tool for social change is a massive privilege and honor.
Just wanted to kind of to round it out. If you were to each pick a highlight of the other's career, what would you go for?
I think winning the World Cup for any player is just it just brings together everything that you've always put into the game, the dreams that you've had as a child, all the way through to the the heartache when you first don't get picked, or you get dropped, or you kick the ball out straight away in sevens, and also you're doing it alongside people that have put in so much into the game as well. So I think, for someone that has achieved so much, I think that rightly so, they should have the honour of a World Cup win.
Yeah, I think, and obviously that it is her retirement, and she has announced this week. And I actually think the photo she put up on her social media is a really cool symbol of what is possible. And I think, for young girls out there, potentially having never ever thought about playing against boys, and you see this little blonde head, raggedy, nuggety, I think 5 or 6 year old, not even sure how old you were, Nolli. But you see where that, where that girl was, playing against boys, because she believed in the power of the game, to where she's come to today. And I think if I look at that image, if you look at how that pathway, from that point of self-belief, grew on to get this fantastic career, I think it's a great platform for young boys and girls around the world to actually look and say, dreams are possible.
So last week I asked you for the most adventurous plays you could think of across rugby history. Henko says Chris Anderbota, 2-time IB try of the year, nominally Chris Anderbota to give him his full name, tackling the beast, going at full speed during the 2011 World Cup, which I've just watched that game back over this weekend, and you can't help but ooh as Bota makes that try saver. Harry Norman says anything Quade Cooper or Danny Cipriani does on the pitch. Again, Quade Cooper once tried a cross kick from behind his own try line. I think that qualifies. Max McCarthy says when Bryan O'Driscoll threw the ball around his teammate, because Shane Horgan, he famously, apparently, the two of them suggested doing that as a joke, assuming the ball was going open side, then it happened, and they went, we might as well do it. Hermes Bota brings up a favourite of mine, Lionel Boxis trying to volley a clearance into touch and just missing completely, resulting in a try for Bath. And again, Quade Cooper keeps on coming up. I don't think you can say adventurous plays without Quade Cooper just kind of appear. I reckon if you ask that question enough times, he just appears in the mirror behind you, like Beetlejuice or Candyman. Anyway, that's enough for this week. I'll see you next week for more of The Feed. Thank you very much. Good night.